Hey everybody and welcome back to my channel. So today I thought that I would answer everybody's questions in one little video. So I have done a half and half of a don't and a do's face. If you would like to see what I am talking about, then keep on watching. So first things first, when it comes to applying makeup, I would say the sequence is really important. Now with all that being said, I'm going to be taking Anastasia Dip Brow Pomade in the shade Taupe. One of the first things that people do wrong with this is not heat it up on your hand. I think personally heating up a brow pomade just with the heat of your skin really helps make it more manageable. When it's in the pot it tends to be quite firm and you can pick up too much and just overdo it really fast. This side that I'm doing my makeup the way I wouldn't do it, I don't want to say the wrong way because no one's makeup's wrong, but this is going to be the right way. No, I'm just joking. This is going to be the way that I would do it. So each side is split right down the middle. Start by brushing through the brow and combing it up. I don't want to go in with this stuff and be like, people do it like this and intentionally make it really messy. I want to stick to ways that I know that people do it but can improve in it. People have got the shape down, like they know how to get the perfect shape brow, they do it really well. The only thing is, so many people go in with layer upon layer upon layer of product and they don't realise that if you just start blending it out, there's enough to do the whole brow already. Now as you can see, the shape is what people have, the shape isn't bad, but another thing that I've noticed that people do is bring the tail out too far, so I'm going to bring that tail to a nice long peak. Now by exaggerating that tail just that little bit too much out, what this is doing is making your eye look so much lower than it actually is and so much heavier. Now I'm giving people the benefit of the doubt, people do blend their eyebrow out, so I'm going to go in and start blending. And for this brow, this is the way that I personally do the brow. First I like to brush completely through. This is just going to help make sure that all the brow hairs are pointing up and in uniform. I'm going to gently just take my brush and coat each side just with a little bit of pomade. And I'm going to start by drawing a straight line all the way under the entire brow and blending up. So now that I'm approaching the end of the brow, this is where your golden ratio comes in place. And if you haven't heard of that, it's basically the perfect way to make sure that your eyebrow is the perfect shape for your face. So first you're going to take your spoolie and you're going to line it up at the bottom of your nose. This is where the beginning of your eyebrow should begin. So next from here, same position, you're going to take your brush and you're going to rotate it until it covers your pupil. This is exactly where the peak of your eyebrow should be. And then last but not least, you're going to take your brush, place it back in the centre of where it was. You're going to rotate it until it hits the corner of your eye, and this is where your brow should end. So as you can see, my brow is supposed to end just a little bit longer than it naturally is, so I'm only going to go that far. Now that I've brushed that out, I'm going to go on the top of the brow and I'm going to brush down. This is really going to help expose any of the little parts of your brow that's a little bit bolder than others. I'm going to gently just start drawing another straight line and getting that top shape. Most people will go in like this and start drawing individual hair skin up, but my brows are quite thick already and I don't want to overdo it, so I just take the side of the brush and gently push it up. Now moving on to carving the brows, this is something that I know so many people don't do, which to me it changes the whole shape of the brow. So I'm going to go ahead and carve my eyes using the Conceal and Define by Makeup Revolution on this eye, and I'm not going to carve this eyebrow. Now I'm also going to bring all over that concealer all over the eyelid. This is going to work as a primer for the eyeshadow. I'm just blending this out. I don't want to work with wet concealer today, so I'm going to go ahead and set it with some RCMA translucent powder. Now I know that a lot of people like to work with wet concealer. I don't find any issue with that. I like to work with wet concealer too sometimes. But the reason I like to do this is because you can actually bring this setting powder through the brow as well, and it sets the brow pomade in place. Now for this eye, I'm going to be using a primer. I'm going to be taking Peaches and Creams primer, and the reason that I'm not a huge fan of eye primers is because you don't get to really carve out the brows. Concealer does it best of both worlds. It works as an amazing eye primer and you can clean up your eyebrows in the process. Now to be fair, I do quite like that eye primer. It's give a little bit of coverage and it feels nice and light. Do not set that eye primer, you leave it wet and tacky so that the eyeshadow sticks to it. So we're going to go ahead and move on to eyeshadow. For eyeshadow today, I'm going to be taking this palette by Makeup Revolution. This is called the Reloaded Iconic Division. Now your transition shade is something that is really going to help set the eye back. Yeah, give it a deep contour, that's what we like. It's also going to help give you that line of demarcation where you should stop and not go any higher. Now getting a little bit ahead of myself here, we're going to go in with all greens from this palette, but first as a nice transition shade, just to help make sure that that shadow doesn't go too far up, I'm going to be using this yellow shade right here. I'm just taking that on a Morphe fluffy blending brush. Now I'm only concentrating this on the crease. To help deepen that crease up, I'm going to be taking this shade and blending it. We're slowly deepening it up just to help build up that intensity for that green shade coming. So I'm going to be taking this shade right here and I'm going to be blending that through the crease and the entire lid. As you can see, that's not blended out perfectly the way that I like it, but this is a little tip that I use for every single eyeshadow look that I do. This is a little hard to explain, but bear with me, I'll try my best. Whichever shade you used previously, so for example, we went in with the green, but before that, I used this really yellow colour. Now that yellow colour will work as what I like to call my diffusion shade, and that means that whatever shadow I would like to blend out, I will use the shade previous to what I used. So, aka this one. Using this shade that I used previous is really going to help make sure that I don't bring that pigment too far up. And next, we're going to go ahead and carve the eye, and I'm just going to use that same concealer I used to prime the eye in the first place, the Conceal and Define by Makeup Revolution. When it comes to blending out that concealer, the best thing that you can use is your finger. This is going to help diffuse it the best way possible. No tool will work any better. Now leaving that concealer nice and wet, I don't want to look up just in case it transfers anywhere that I don't want it to, but I'm going to be taking that sparkly green shade in the palette and applying that all over. I like to use these tiny little detailer brushes for nails. I like to wet this brush, dip into that shade and carve that crease with the pigment. And when it comes to the outer corner part where that cut crease ends, what you're going to do is just gently do little light flicks. You want to diffuse that sparkle out as much as possible. Now we've lost some information where that dark green shadow was here. I'm going to take some more on a brush and just blend it on the outer V. I'm taking some of that transition shade, the dark green one, and I'm going to be blending it just above that cut crease. And that's just made it look as sharp as possible. Now we're done with that eye, I'm going to move on to the other eye. I'm going to go in with the darkest shade that I was using, so that really dark green shade. We are skipping transition shades because I know that so many people do this and they go in with it a little bit too late. So I'm going to be blending that dark green shade all the way through the crease. Something else that I've seen people do is go in with so much pigment. So they go in and they pack pigment on, and they pack more pigment on, and then even more, and then even more. And they forget that they already have enough pigment on their eye to blend out already. Now I'm taking all the shades I'm meant to. I'm taking the lights, I'm taking the darks, I'm blending them up, but I'm doing it in reverse, so it's not really going to work well. Now I'm not trying to make this look bad, but as you can tell, we've already reached the brow and there's hardly any definition of where the different pigments are. It just kind of looks like one big blob of green. Now this is what happens when you don't go in with that transition shade. It just kind of leads you into a situation where you don't really know when to stop, and it leads you to the eyebrow, which obviously isn't a good look. Now I'm going to go ahead and carve that eye, and I'm just taking some of that concealer. Something that people do really wrong here is that they go far too high with the concealer. The reason for this is they're trying to make up for going so high with the eyeshadow, so in an attempt to try and make it look like everything is proportional again, they go a little bit higher than normal with their crease. And when it comes to the edge, I'm actually just going to pat it out as much as possible. I'm not going to use my finger, and you guys will see just how handy your finger can be. Dipping back into that shimmer shade, I'm just taking some on a fluffy brush and I'm going to pat it over the top. Now for the edges, you will see why it's a really bad idea to blend it out with a brush and not your finger. When I get to the edge, and I'm going to start diffusing this eyeshadow. You can see that it's clinged on to where that brush is. It just does not diffuse it out enough. Even a fluffy blending brush won't diffuse it out enough. It will just stamp the product even further into the outer V. But in an attempt to fix it, I'm going to go in with that dark green shade and start blending out the outer V. I can already tell what's going to happen. It's going to start clinging to where that edge of that concealer is, and it's going to leave a very harsh line. And as you guys can see, it does not look diffused at all. It's like that really harsh line I was talking about. Now I'm going to go ahead and clean up the outer edge of the eye. So I'm going to start with the Do eye, and all I'm going to do is clean where the tail of my eyebrow is. Now if you guys remember, I said that elongating your tail and not following that golden ratio that we used on this eye, it's really going to mess up and bring your eye lower. So when it comes time to clean up the eyeshadow, because the tail of the brow is so much lower, your whole eye is going to appear lower. So I'm going to take this wipe and just clean up to where the tail of that brow ends. And if I look straight on, you can see that this eye is so much lower already. It's just pulling the face down. It looks heavy, it looks too intense. And I'm going to go ahead and use The Ordinary, and this is just their silicone primer. I personally don't think that you can go wrong with a primer. I don't really know if there's any wrong way to apply it. I do know, however, that people go in with moisturiser as a primer. That's not really a good idea. If you're planning on moisturising, do it at least half an hour before you start your makeup. The reason for this is because it's actually going to break down your makeup. So if you're someone that's going through the day and your foundation isn't lasting as long as it says on the bottle, or you just notice it breaking up almost immediately, especially after you set it, it's because your moisturiser is too slick and the foundation and all the powder, all the products aren't sticking properly. Something that people can get wrong, and this is a lengthy one, this could be a whole video in itself, but as foundation. People can get the shade of their foundation so wrong, and it's so easy to do that. If you are someone who is shopping for foundation, you're having a little look, there's so many options, you're overwhelmed, this tip is for every age. Always, always, always match it to the back of your hand. But the best way that you can find your perfect coloured shade for your foundation is by looking at the colour of the veins on your wrist. Most of you are probably like, what? Now if you have greenish blue veins, then that means a yellow undertone foundation will suit you best. But if you have veins like me, which are more purpley blue, then a pink undertone foundation will suit you best. So for the Don't side, I'm going to go in with a yellow foundation. This is by The Ordinary. This just isn't my shade. It's too yellow for me. So I'm going to drop a couple of squirts on my hand. Now as you can see, when I pull down my collar, you can see the difference. It just isn't diffusing because it's not my skin tone. Now that foundation would be incredible. It's nothing to do with the formula. It's not a bad foundation, it's just not my correct undertone. And that is my skin tone, is this one right here. This is in the shade Porcelain, and this is Infallible Total Coverage by L'Oreal Paris. Now if I pull my top down on this side, you can see that it's all blending out. There isn't any harsh lines like on this side. Moving on to concealer, I'm just taking my Conceal and Define and I'm going to place it on the Do side, just under the eye. I'm going to go lightly. For this side, I'm going to go in with my e.l.f. concealer, and I'm getting all the tones wrong in this side, obviously on purpose, but just to show you guys just how much it can mess up every single step. Now for this side, I'm going to go in with a really neutral concealer, and that won't work because of this yellow foundation. It's going to appear so much darker and it's not going to highlight at all. So as you can see, just by getting the foundation shade wrong, it's kind of messing up every single step after that. So I'm going to take this right here. This is the LA Girl Velvet Bronzer. Now for contouring, you want to go from the very tip of the ear, hold your brush diagonally until it hits the corner of your mouth. Anything below this is completely wrong. It's actually going to bring your face too far down, and it's not going to look right because it's going to bring everything else with it, like highlight, blush, everything. And I'm going to show you that on the Don't side. So following that natural contour, if I pout, I can see where my cheeks sink in, and I'm just going to follow that again from the tip of the ear to the mouth. Now here's the really, really important part where you can go so wrong. You don't want to go all the way to the tip of the mouth, you want to stop halfway. Now for up here, all I'm doing is following my natural hairline. There really isn't like a key secret for this. Now to blend this out, I'm just taking a sculpting brush by Real Techniques and I'm going to spray it with some NYX setting spray. This is just going to help work that bronzer in. Now, I like to go in stippling motions, as you guys can see. The reason for this is because I feel like if you start swiping, it's really going to disrupt all that foundation and concealer that we've laid down. Now again, people aren't stupid, so I'm not going to go in and be like, oh, this is how people contour and draw like a big mess on purpose. I feel like right now, so many people that are teaching makeup kind of do most of it off camera and tell you guys, okay, you contour from the ear to your mouth, and then they go ahead and start blending. And then everyone at home sitting thinking, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do that then. Now again, people aren't saying whereabouts in the ear, so I'm going to go from the ear all the way to the tip of the mouth. Giving this a fighting chance, I'm going to take the same brush, but I'm going to be swiping. It has definitely disrupted that foundation. That is very far down. It does not look contoured and bronzy. It just has pulled my entire face down. It kind of makes this bit look like it's bulging out. If you have a combination skin, something that I like to do is either use a really dewy foundation and then set it with powders. Even though I'm in with a matte foundation, I'm still going to set my face because I am an oily mess. But one thing that I've seen people do, which I'm not a huge fan of, is set their entire face using translucent powder. So I'm taking some RCMA, I'm just taking some on my hand and on a little sponge. Don't come at me for the sponge that I use on this. The reason I don't like dipping into translucent powders with my beauty blenders or my miracle sponge is because I feel like it really messes up the sponge. I feel like the powder goes in. Even when you wash them, you can't get it out. Just making sure that that concealer hasn't creased under the eye. I'm going to go ahead and just gently place this all the way under. And for my next product, you guys guessed it, I'm going to be using my Fit Me powder by Maybelline in the shade Ivory. For the Don't side, I'm going to be taking a fluffy brush. I'm going to in all over with RCMA translucent powder. Moving on to contouring with powder, I'm going to be taking my 9C palette by Morphe. So as of right now, you can see my favourite shade right here. This shade is perfect for my skin tone. Again, everything has an undertone. So for my bronzer, I like to go with one that has a red undertone in it because it works best with my skin. What this means is that my contour shade is going to be really, really warm, and I like that. For some people, they might suit a cooler contour shade, which means that it has more ashy tones in it. For me, I'm going to go in with clearly my favourite one, this right here, and I'm going to bronze up my face. For some people out there, they think that to achieve that really chiseled contour look, they should go in with the darkest shade, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. There you go, I am a bronzed goddess. But moving on to blush, I'm going to be taking this palette right here. This is by Makeup Revolution and this is the Sugar&Spice palette. Now I could completely do this over exaggerated and over the top and go like 2004 on this and apply like the most rosiest shade right in the middle, crazy intense like a clown. I'm not going to do that because I know that people don't do that anymore. What I am going to do is just take a little mixture of every shade and I'm going to gently stipple that on the Do side. So I'm going to show you guys the perfect place to apply your blush. We've applied contour and we've applied concealer. So I want to sandwich a shade right in between the both. So for me, I like to really just place it nice and high. This is going to help lift my cheeks up. I'm going to place it about here and what I'm going to do is stipple it on. If I start swiping, I feel like I lose control and it's going to place the blush down exactly where you first place your brush and then it's stuck there. For the Don't side, I'm going to go in and just dip my brush in. I know that so many people follow this old rule where you smile and place it on the apples of your cheek. And I know that can be really popular and it does work for some, but again, if you get the placement wrong of everything else, it will not work. So I'm going to go ahead, smile, and I'm going to place it right on the apples of the cheeks. Okay. Usually once I've finished all of those steps, I like to go ahead and just spray my face. It's just going to help lock in everything that we've done so far and just help give a little bit of comfort to the face after all of those powders. Moving on to highlight, for the Do side, I'm going to be taking this one right here and this is by e.l.f. This is called the Shimmer Highlighting Powder. And this is in the shade Starlight Glow. To apply this, I like to take this little brush here. This is actually a setting brush I meant for like powder under the eye. You can use whichever brush you like, but for me, this is the perfect one to diffuse out a highlight. So I'm going to spray it with some setting spray. I'm going to dip into the highlight. I'm going to be applying it directly, half on the blush and half off the blush. So I like to go quite high. Not directly under the eye, but quite close to the eye. This is just a personal preference. This looks like I'm just going side to side like this really fast, but what I'm actually doing is going like this in circular motions and then just really sped up. It looks like I'm going side to side. The reason for this is I feel if you go side to side and just start going like this really fast, you lose control of where that highlight is being placed and it just becomes far too intense, and when you turn to the front, you're going to have a big cast of where that shadow is. And I know that so many people can go in with a gold shade and it doesn't work. This one by e.l.f., the best for really pale people. It shows up the most gorgeous champagne gold colour, and it's not like a dark bronzy glow where you turn to the front and you have like this kind of shadow cast or even the side and it looks funny. As you guys can see, it's this really glowy, bright, dewy highlight. So I'm just going to apply some to the tip of the nose as well, and a little bit just above the brow bone. This is just highlighting the high points of the face. Now the reason I brought that up about this being a very light highlight is because I feel like when people can't find a gold highlight, they seem to go in with the next best thing, which is a white highlight. So for my next highlight, I'm going to be taking this palette right here. This is by Freedom, and I'm going to be taking this shade right here. This is a complete white highlighter. To apply this, I'm going to be taking a brush that I'm not a big fan of. A fan brush. And the reason I'm not a big fan of these types of brushes is because you have to go side to side. You can't go in circular motions because of the shape of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and apply this to the cheek, but I'm going to be applying it so that you guys can see it from the front, right? So I guess I'm going to apply it right here as well. That's so blinding. Wow. So before we go any further, I'm going to go ahead and just set my eyebrows on the Do side, and for that I'm just using Brow Drama by Maybelline, and this is in the shade Medium Brown. And I'm also not going to be setting this eyebrow, I'm going to be leaving that one. No brow gel, because I mean I went in with pomade and it's already dark enough, so I don't need it. So going back to the eyes, I'm going to be taking my eyelash curler and I'm going to be curling the Do side. Now I've actually seen a few people do this before where they don't curl their eyelashes and then they apply a false eyelash, and this can really help make your real eyelashes stick straight out and then the false eyelash be pointing nice and up and nice and fluffy, and you can't understand why it's not working for your eye. For this side, I'm going to be taking some Rimmel mascara. This is called Wake Me Up. It smells like cucumbers. It's so amazing. Now for the Don't side, I'm going to be taking a mascara that is high-end, it's expensive to me, and I'm pretty sure so many other people. This is Lights Camera Lashes by Tarte. So what I want to do is, when I'm applying this, I want my lashes to be nice and long, so I'm just going to, you know, apply as much as I like. While the mascara is drying, I'm going to be moving back to this palette and I'm going to be starting on the lower lash line. So to do this, I'm going to be taking this shade right here, and on the Do side, I'm going to be blending it as close to the lash line as possible. And then I'm also going to be just lightly diffusing it in the inner corner. I don't want to bring it all the way along, it's going to be too heavy, it's too intense. Next, I'm just taking one of my favourite blending brushes for under the eye. This is the A12 by Spectrum, and I'm going to be dipping into this yellow shade and just diffusing that shade completely out. For the Don't side, I'm going to be taking the palette again, and I'm going to be dipping into that green shade, but I'm going to be using one of the brushes that I used on the top of the eye. A nice small blending brush. It fits just right on the lower lash line. And this is exactly what I was saying by using smaller brushes and gently building up. As you can see, it's already carrying all the way down the face. Moving on to the lips, this is one of my most favourite things. I love over outlining. In fact, I do it in every single video I'm sure you guys have seen. But I'm going to be taking the Revlon Colorstay lip liner in the shade Nude. This is my all-time favourite. It is the perfect shade to match my lips. So I'm going to zoom you guys in and talk you through what happens and what people do wrong here. Okay, so we are nice and close. I'm feeling very up close and personal with you guys right now. So the trick to over outlining is to concentrate mainly on the cupid's bow. This is where the secret lies. Nobody will tell you that. As well as most people these days just wanting bigger lips and going and getting injections. Nothing wrong with that, I'm just saying It's so much easier to lip line when you already have huge lips. But if you're wanting to achieve huge lips and you originally have smallish lips, then this is how to do it. So as I said, mainly where you want to concentrate is the cupid's bow. I feel like if you were to bring your lips and suck them in, it means that you can really see how straight you're getting your cupid's bow. I like mine to be rounded off. So as you can see right here, when I turn to the side, I have over outlined my cupid's bow and came all the way down the side but joined to my natural lip. By the time you get to the outer corner of your lips, you should already be lining on your real lip line and not outside of it. So starting at the cupid's bow, I'm going to follow my natural shaped lip just all the way around the edge on the outside. That's what the overall appearance of that looks like now. I know so many of you were sitting going, that doesn't look bad. Yeah, on camera, but in real life. For lips today, I'm going to be taking one of my favourite. This is by Bourjois, and this is in the shade Caramelody. So something that I'm going to do on the do side is I'm going to stipple this on. I don't like just white lipstick. I just feel like it adds on far too much. It makes your lips feel cakey. For lashes today, I'm going to be using this pair by Lure Beauty. One lash isn't going to fit everybody in the world, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure this to my eye and I'm going to trim it where it needs trimmed. So you guys, this is the lash. What I'm going to do is glue the top of it all the way along. Remember the edges so they don't pop off when they're on your eye. And then I'm also going to be gluing the back of the lash. Because we placed lash glue on both sides of the band, it means that it's going to really press against the lash and hold. So right here in the inner corner, you can see where the lash band is versus where there is no lash band because it's my natural lashes. I'm going to go ahead and take some liner. This is liquid liner by Rimmel called Scandalise. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fill in that little blank gap. So something you run into when you don't trim the lash is just how big it is. You can, I'm trying my hardest. There we go, there we go. For the last step of this incredible super glam. So when it comes to the brow bone and the inner corner, I want to have a little bit of fun and I want to change it up from my natural glow that's all over my face to something a little bit different. So I'm going to be taking this palette. This is by Makeup Revolution and it's called the Ultra Cool Glow Kit. And what I'm going to do is, for the do side, I'm going to go in with this green shade. This means that it's going to tie it all together. It's going to just flow with the theme of the eye. What I'm going to do is I'm going to spray my brush. I like it to be quite saturated. And then I'm going to dip into that green shade and apply it to the brow bone. Now I'm going to use a flat shader brush. This is the perfect shape for around the brow. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to spray my brush with anything. I'm just going to apply it dry. Taking my bullet brush, I'm just going to start putting it all over the inner corner, but I'm going to go in a big swirly motion. And what I'm going to do for the do side is I want it to be as close to the tear duct as possible. So I'm going to start off really lightly, and then I'm also going to work on just diffusing it lightly along that lower lash. And that completes today's video. So I really hope that you guys learned something. This is just a couple of common mistakes that people can make. Now of course you guys aren't going to make them all in one face, and if you do then please go watch more of my videos. If you guys did enjoy this video, then remember to give it a huge thumbs up, and if you haven't yet already, then please subscribe. I would love if you become part of my little family here on YouTube. I will link all of my social medias down in the description below so you guys can come and follow me, and my social media is on the screen right now. This is my Instagram, so come and follow me, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!